Hey there, Amanda here. You know, every now and again we do a Facebook Live or have a live interview with someone that is just pure gold. So we wanted to make sure that you got a chance to listen to some of these really wonderful treasures and nuggets. So these are very special episodes, and I hope that you learn a lot from the coaches and experts that we tend to interview, and that it really helps you build the coaching business of your dreams. Enjoy! Hey guys, so I recently interviewed my very good friend Kimberly Spencer, and it was such a fun, badass interview. We just had to throw it on the podcast and the blog for you to enjoy. So definitely tune in for some ideas about how you can think bigger about setting up your business for success. And without further ado, Kimberly Spencer. All right, we're live on Facebook and you are watching the Crush Method Daily Show. Whoop, whoop. I am your host, Amanda Kaufman, and I'm so excited to give you an extended opportunity to join us with an interview with Kimberly Spencer, who is a badass and a dear friend, and also a successful coach with Crown Yourself. And I'm going to have so many questions about the origins and all of the ins and the outs. But you guys, we've been trying to coordinate this interview for a long time, haven't we, Kim?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's been, I'm glad we fit it in this decade so that we could get it in before 2020, because the next decade is going to be ridiculously incredible.
I agree. And I'm so stoked that we found some time. So, really, I have been dying to interview you because I can still remember the first time that I met you. And
yes, fellow sparklers.
You have like that vibe. Like, she is in the room. You can't miss her, and it's not in like a gaudy or tacky way. It's just, she's here. And, there's very few people that I've met. And you were in a room, by the way, full of certified high performance coaches, or about to be certified high performance coaches. So these are people who know how to carry themselves. They know about presence. And you just stood, hands above the crowd with your presence and your sparkles and your joy. And it was just palpable. And I've been following your journey ever since we had that first certification together. You've been kicking ass. So I'm just so excited to bring you to the Crush Method Daily Show so that our tribe can have an opportunity to ask you some questions. So make sure, guys, as you're watching this, and even if it's on the replay, ask your questions as we go, because I love to showcase coaches just like Kim, because you're just taking so much massive action and having a really big impact in what you do. And I'm so excited to jump in. So are you ready?
I'm so ready. Thank you. I just have to say, Amanda, I just receive all of that. It's one of the practices as I'm moving into the next decade of practicing receiving. And thank you so much. Like, I see you, and likewise with what you've done in becoming a certified high performance coach. I mean, we were in the same class, and like what you've done with the Crush Method and your growth, I've been watching you. I am on your email list. Your messaging is on point. I love getting your emails. It is such a joy to see you succeed.
I appreciate that. I so appreciate that. And, just for context, Kim was nice enough to give a little bit of a bio. So I'm going to, keep it nice and punchy, but Kim Spencer is an award-winning high-performance coach and trainer. She's an Amazon best-selling co-author, an international motivational speaker, and the founder of crownyourself.com. And you Canadians and British people, there's no E, it's just crownyourself.com. And she's been helping high achievers build their empire and sparkle with holistic fulfillment in their bodies, their businesses, and relationships. From her entrepreneurial beginnings at 5 selling bags of glitter water to her neighbors, to becoming an award-winning screenwriter, certified Pilates instructor, Miss Congeniality, I believe that all day. And 6-time WEGO Health Activist Award nominee, Kimberly is proof that it's better to make your own mold than to conform to someone else's. Preach it, sister. Totally. And she's also the former executive of a national e-commerce startup and the owner of a private Pilates studio, Fitness with Kim, in Los Angeles. Her 10-year track record in sales and entrepreneurship was featured in the Amazon bestseller book, The Start, Journey to Entrepreneurship. And her work has been featured on the CW, ESPN, NPR, Thrive Global, Girls Life, and Forbes. Her premier solo book, Mindful Meals, How to Dethrone Food Fears and Reign in a Body That Rules, debuts in 2020. That is one hell of a bio, Kim. My goodness.
Thank you. Yeah, every time I hear my bio back at me, I'm like, dang.
Dang, you did
like one of the top things I teach my clients is like really training that reticular activating system to start recognizing your accomplishments and celebrating yourself. And every time I'm like, that's why I'm practicing receiving more, because I'm like, you got like, we can so, especially as high achievers, we can be so easy at the things that we didn't do well or the things that we did wrong. And like, how do you program the wins, the successes, the achievements? Because unless you're programming those just as much as you're training yourself to have that resilience to get back up, what happens is you're not going to want to eventually get back up if you don't have that already programmed into your mind.
I love that. So you used a big word there. What did you mean by reticular operating system? What is that?
So it's a part of the brain that actually it's the neurons that fire together, wire together. We've heard these like cliche sort of statements, and the reticular activating system is basically, it trains your focus to, so that what you focus on, you feed. So the more you focus on something, the more it's going to feed that system to find more evidence to back up that thing. So if you're training yourself, if you're literally training your brain to only focus on your failures, then eventually you're going to train your brain to focus on the failure, and then eventually that failure becomes an identity. And then it's then you're dealing with a deep-seated belief of the identity of being a failure versus having failed, which is, there's a big difference.
Oh, I love that. There's a huge difference. That's a great writer downer, everyone, that there's a huge difference between failing and being a failure. I like to teach, especially when I'm working with a private client and we're trying to, set up that business to like go for the stratosphere. The first thing we do is we talk about the two most powerful words in the English language. And those words, in my opinion, are I am. Right. And so if we're reinforcing that state of being that I am a failure, I am not capable, I am not good enough, then we just don't manifest in the same way. And what I love about talking about like the reticular system is like, I think sometimes, I know for me as a chemical engineer and a scientist and a nerd, I would really struggle in the past with some of the more energetic concepts, more woo concepts of like, the law of attraction and things like that I'm pretty much behind now. But I mean, you can't argue the science of whatever you're reinforcing as in the neural pathways of the brain, that is going to become your reality. And then your behavior, you're going to act accordingly.
Yeah, you can't argue with mirror neurons. Like,
you can't argue with mirror neurons.
You can't argue with mirror neurons. So like, mirror neurons are kind of like the science-y form of what I perceive to be the law of attraction, of like, you start to see things, coincidences and things around you when you start paying attention to abundance, successes, opening yourself up to deeper questions, that instead of like, why is this happening to me? How can I make this better? Who can I contact? Who can I ask to help me? What strategy can I put into place now instead of the one that didn't work? And then training that.
And it's a key distinction in a high performer as well, right? It's the quality of the questions that we're asking ourselves that so dictates the results that we're getting. A little Tony at you there, a little Tony Robbins. So I guess my first question for you, Kim, is why on earth would you choose the path of becoming a coach?
Oh, good Lord. It was a long path filled with a lot of curiosity. So I started out, like, I never wanted to become a coach initially. Like when I was 17 growing up, like my whole dream in life was to be an actor and a screenwriter. Like my dream was to be like the female version of Clint Eastwood. And I was in the drama club president, like leading the shows. Like I was the performer, and it scared the crap out of me. Like if I had told, like, I am a natural introvert, and that was a process to just get me up on that stage. But once I got up on that stage, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. So every time I would get up on stage, it would scare me. But at the same time, I loved it. And yet at the same time, like I had some difficulty growing up. I grew up in a home with an addict. So my dad was an addict for 30 years. He's now been 3 years sober since I staged his intervention. Yep. So kudos, Dad. And then I was bulimic, and I was struggling with like massive insecurity, massive self-doubt, but I also had massive amounts of ambition. And so I chose to drop out of college 2 weeks before I was supposed to start, even though I had 2 scholarships to go and take this acting class with this that I had met over the summer prior. And this acting teacher actually changed my life, because it was a very extensive curriculum that we were to embark on at 17 years old. And he has this one book that was highlighted in box, and it's the most important book you will ever read. And I was like, I'm a student, and I was like, I'm going to get all the books. I'm going to learn everything I need to learn. I'm going to be the best, and I'm going to do this right. And so I'm like, I'm going to get all the books. And the one book that it was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Bam! That was my gateway book into personal development. Yeah, that was my gateway.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm curious, like those that are watching live, and if you're watching on the replay, have you ever read Stephen Covey? And like, what are your thoughts about that book? That's a seminal book in the personal development realm. Starting with the end in mind, sharpening the saw. I never remember all 7 of them.
And it was the first, I don't remember all the 7, but I do remember the lesson that really shifted me was I opened the book and I see that you are in charge of your emotions. And back then, like growing up, if you've grown up in an addict household, or you've grown up with an addict or codependency, because my mom was a codependent as well, like there's everything's reactionary, and everything is very much a victim mindset. Everything happens to you. Nothing really happens for you. It's very being at effect. Sometimes being the victim or even the villain of your own life, where you create that self-sabotage. And so for me, I would self-sabotage by way of my emotions, of like, I'd feel an emotion. And what I was struggling with back then was bulimia. If you think of like in metaphorical terms, it's what bulimia is. It was shoving things down and then like eventually like exploding. And so for me, I would shove my emotions down until they would explode, and it would be like chaos. And I opened up this book and it said like, you are in charge of your emotional state. And I was like, wait, what? Like that was the first time I'd ever heard that in my life. And when I read that, it was so fascinating. And actually, but like my acting school, what it did train me for was it taught me to listen on a deeper level, not just on the surface level to the words, but to the body language, to the emotions, to everything that was going on in the moment. And it taught me the listening skills that I now take in to my coaching with my clients. Like it taught me to be present. It taught me the beauty of really being able to calibrate your emotional state. And then I was offered this, like, this is going to be the longest story on the planet of how I got into coaching. And then I was struggling because I was struggling with an eating disorder, and I really was highly ambitious, and I wanted to have my own business, and I wanted to do my own thing and be on my own. I started teaching Pilates, and it was like the first form of exercise that I'd ever found that was really, it made me feel good in my body. I'd never felt good in my body. And when I was in that space feeling good in my body, and then I was in a place where I was teaching, I also learned the power of congruence. Because at the time when I first started teaching Pilates, I was still bulimic, and yet I was having clients come to me for health and fitness kind of mentoring as I'm like in this position of authority to teach Pilates. And I was like, okay, so I started to learn and test. And first of all, the biggest power for me was removing myself out of the cage, as Brendan puts it, was seeing that I wasn't alone. like I had for so long thought I was like struggling on my own with this thing that nobody else had. And it made me so special having this problem. When so many other women have body image issues, so many other men have body image issues, and being able to see that and have conversations around that, and then see all other people's lifestyles and their different frames of being. So it expanded my perception of what my reality was. And at the same time,
isn't that what it's like all about?
Yes. Yeah.
That expansion.
Yeah. Because once you get out of the little myopic space of like the realm and the beliefs and the things that you grew up with, suddenly you're like, whoa, these people have different opinions. They have different ways of being. Oh, you don't have to be dysfunctional in your relationships. You can actually have a really amazing marriage, and that's like really rocking, and like you can actually have like conversations instead of arguments. And so that opened my eyes up. And at the same time, I was then offered the opportunity to write my first screenplay and for a feature. And that actually happened literally like 10 years ago today. I was sitting in my apartment in Studio City, like punching away at the keys, writing my first screenplay with my co-writing it with my director. And it ended up getting produced, getting distributed. It got like distributed by Lionsgate, got on Netflix. And at the premiere, I'm standing there in Orange County and I'm surprisingly unfulfilled. Like I was like 80, like 95% fulfilled, but it wasn't 100. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like I achieved this dream that I've always wanted, but it wasn't 100 yet. And what changed me was there was a boy who came with a friend of mine. When you write a film, you get extra tickets. And so like I was giving them away like candy. And so this boy had this ticket, and he came and saw the film, and then he heard the story of one of the guys who was in the film, whose life literally mirrored the story. And if you see me now, you're like, wait, she wrote a freestyle motocross movie? Yes, I did. And that story. What happened was this boy who came to the film, he changed his life within 2 weeks. I got a message from his mom, who was a friend of my friend. And she said, your movie changed my son's life. And then 2 years later, it was blessed to change another boy's life. And that alone was like, that's what I want to do. I want to change people's stories. I want to shift their perspectives. I want to change their lives. I want to change how they think. And so I went from there, following my curiosity, following my love of business, to starting my own Pilates studio, and to joining a partnership for an e-commerce company. Because I thought, okay, cool. I'll change people's lives through this back stretching product that we were selling. And I devoted 2 years of my life to that company. And then 3 weeks before I got married, I was bought out of that company. And I was on my honeymoon wondering, like, what am I going to do? I feel very unfulfilled. Like, what's up? And I literally was having a conversation. Like when you're married to an entrepreneur, like you end up having conversations on your honeymoon. Other things happen too. But like, yes, that happens. But there were a lot of like deep conversations of like business building and things like that. And I immediately sat up of like, I love writing. I love creating. I love challenging. I love performing in essence. I love speaking. I love coaching, like kind of in the Pilates sense that I was used to. And I was like, and I was a pageant girl, and I was like, crown yourself. And my husband's like, awesome. What's that? I was like, I don't know.
I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
Of it, right?
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Wow. I mean, like you packed a lot of life into your life already.
In 1 decade. Yeah. I look back on the decade. I'm like, damn.
Dang. So good. And that's why I wanted to have you here. We've got a lot of people watching live, and, you know, guys, Kim, sorry, I keep going like Kimberly Spencer because that's what is on your
it's on my bio. But once you get to know me, like literally after the first hello, you can call me Kim. So
there you go. But we've got her attention for the next 30 minutes. So let's make sure we start filling the chat roll with some questions. You know, anything, right? You're good with anything, any kind of question.
Yeah, go for it.
There you go. So I mean, we've been in the coaching space together for a few years now. And, you know, what is something that you're seeing us doing as an industry of coaches that you would love to see some adjustment? Like, the magic fairy wand, if you could just like crown all coaches as just being very successful and, you know, having everything that they desire with their business and their lifestyle. Like, what are maybe some of the 3 things that you would really love to see us focusing more on as an industry?
I think your authentic perspective instead of replicating someone else's.
Ooh, say
I've
more about
seen,
that.
yeah, I've seen a lot of life coaches turn into business coaches because they take a program and they're like, this is a program that I think is really good, so I'm just going to do this, rather than like creating their own thing based on their own life experience, like what you've done. And like it's instead of like trying to duplicate what somebody else is doing, like do your own thing, like make it your own method, make it your own process, make it like shift it so that it's your thing instead of trying to be like some other coach out there. Like one of my clients, she was like, Kim, do I have to be on like on Facebook? And like I used to talk about creating a community. Like I'm blessed, like I don't coach just coaches, like I coach lots of creativepreneurs and people who have creative side projects that they want to make space in their life for, because those are the things that really fulfill them. So I work with executive producers, I work with voice actors, I work with some coaches, I work with event planners. So I have like a nice wide spectrum. But one of the things that I see is new coaches stepping in to this like, oh, I took this program, I think this program's really good, so I'm going to build this same program and I'm just going to slap my logo on it, without actually seeing the results for themselves with that program. They just go back and repurpose it. That's one thing. The other thing that I would
that's really interesting. That's an interesting distinction. So you're saying like, I'm hearing one, like allow your creative flag to fly and really have your own authentic voice. But two, you're saying like people are shortcutting the living the life and gaining experience and perspective part of coaching, and instead saying, well, that's somebody else's experience, that's the steps that they prescribe, let's just follow the steps step by step and then be done, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So thanks for clarifying that. Cause I think that a lot of that has to do with permission, like feeling a sense of personal permission to create, and also a little bit of being okay that your journey is fancy enough.
Yeah.
It's good. I remember struggling with this when I was a new coach. I'm like, well, I don't have like a big cancer survivor story. I don't have like a car accident. There's a disproportionate, by the way, number of gurus who have a car accident story.
I mean, I've had a few car accidents that were like pretty pivotal, but that like, they didn't actually lead to me starting my coaching business. They just led to me finding like peace and purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think sometimes you can look at your story and say, well, it's not significant enough, or it's not fancy enough. It's not fascinating enough. And, a lot of the value that a coach brings is actually the accessibility to the perspective that you can change your life and your circumstances. And it is very much worth it to have ownership over that.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Yes, so much. I mean, ownership is like my jam. Like owning your story, owning your shit, owning your messages, like owning who you are, your mess, your mistakes, your failures, your flubs, your all of it. Because all of that has shaped you into being who you are now. And one of the things also that I see a lot of new coaches doing as well is they judge their prices based on what they perceive that they're worth. And then they use that story of like, I don't think my story is fancy enough to then charge these premium prices. And that's incongruent, actually, because you wouldn't go to a restaurant and just and like the waiter gives you like a menu of like all the beautiful things that you can order, and you can have like the $600 bottle of wine, or you can have the burger for $15. Like you can have your choice, but you don't order from a restaurant and then the waiter goes, oh no, I don't feel worthy of selling that to you right now. Like I'm not feeling worthy of selling that bottle of wine to you right now.
They're like, do you want that $600 bottle?
They're like, oh, would you like to have a taste of it? The sommelier will bring it over to you. Like, but it's so often we attach our worth to our products and our services, and that's not necessarily the case. One of the things that I see that I recommend is have a process. Like when you have a process, you sell the process. So like you and I are both certified high performance coaches and we sell that process. You also sell your crush method process. It's a process that you're selling. So it removes the self-worth from being something that's versus the process, and you sell the process.
I love to tell people, I'm like, oh baby, you know, you're priceless.
Yes.
Right. The value is the value in the eye of the beholder who wants the transformation. Right. Because different people value different things. I know of people that like, there's no way they would spend hundreds of dollars on a bottle of wine. Just no way, never going to happen. They love wine, but they're never going to go there. Right. Yep. And then there's others that, you know what, like that's a special splurge and they'd really love to do that for the bottle of wine because that's their perception of their value, of what they value. And it has nothing to do with your value as a person because baby, you're priceless.
Amen. Baby, you priceless. I love that.
Priceless. You're priceless. So I'm just like, we've got lots of people that are watching live. You guys, if you have questions, and Desiree is saying she loves that, sell the process. So good. So if you have questions as we're going, make sure you put Kim on the spot because, you know, I've got her for the next little while here.
Hot seat.
So what's the third thing that you would really love to see coaches maybe shift or address differently as an industry?
As an industry, because there's like on the topic of price, there's also the topic of like, well, now what now I'm given permission that I can charge like thousands of dollars or however much it is or whatever. And one of the things that I recommend to new coaches is look at how much you've already invested in yourself. Because when you've invested tens of thousands of dollars in yourself, when you know the emotional and the financial and the mental energy of the decision behind putting down a credit card and saying, okay, let's go all in, $10,000, like, let's do this. That is a different conversation. You can hold the space for someone on an energetic level, to get woo-woo on it, like to have that conversation because you empathetically know what it feels like to slap down 5, 10, 15 grand on your credit card or to have that drawn out of your bank account, to have, and what that will do for you and how that makes you feel in the moment and how that will the transformation that can come just from that alone. But sometimes I had a conversation with another coach who was like way undercharging, like $150 a month. I was like, what? That's almost as bad as I was when I was way undervaluing, under earning, and mired in self-doubt. That's almost as bad. Mine was pretty bad. But
hey, I started out at $10 an hour. So
did you really?
You know, I was queen. Yeah.
I was $100 for 4 sessions a month, so $25 an hour. So I mean, we're pretty close.
Bargain basement coaching. I like it. Yep. Because I was wrapped up in it all being about my own worth. So I didn't have like a process. And then once I started to see, oh, my process is actually working with my clients, it was just from there $100 to $1,000 a month, and then from there up. But like that's the other thing is like, yes, you can charge premium prices, but look at the congruence, to go back to congruence of how congruent are you with saying you should spend this much and you will get the return if you haven't done that yourself, if you don't know what it feels like to invest $5, $10, $15, $30,000 in a coach. You know, I know this is a big topic in our space because it is really hard to fathom, especially because it's not as common to buy coaching. And even among coaches overwhelmingly do not invest in their own coaching. So then that congruence thing can really creep up on you. And I'll never forget the first time I invested in a coach at buy a car levels, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I could physically have a car. What I'm investing in is I'm investing in a process and a relationship that over the course of the year that we're going to be working together, I will be having these experiences unfold that are going to reinforce and invigorate what I'm already on path to do. Right. So like I credit so much to my coaches, and I still work with coaches. And I think the thing is that any like high performer, you think about an Olympic athlete, nobody bats an eye about an athlete hiring a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But that congruence thing can really kind of get in the way, I think, in the coaching space, because sometimes that credit card gets slapped down for the 10,000 and they think, oh, well, I've invested 10,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 or $250,000. and that should be enough. I should be getting that return on investment. So I'm curious, what's your reaction to that as a coach and as a high performer who's really built your business, right? And stuck with it and just kept on like chugging at this thing. Like, can you talk to us a little bit about times when maybe you were working really, really hard, but you weren't getting the ROI on your investment for all that work and effort? And maybe some contrasting examples. Like, I'd love to play with that because I know that you're a hard worker. I know it.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up the coaches not hiring coaches and not working with coaches continuously. I heard the average NBA player has 7 coaches. Like one for nutrition, one for health, one for performance, one on the court field, sports.
Sports. I'm with you there, Kim.
Sports. But I love sports metaphors, but I'm just not good with like, is it a court? Is it a field? Is it a basket? Is it a hoop? It's a thing.
It's a pitch. I don't know.
Yeah, something. But I did a podcast episode that was like the 4 questions anybody who's looking to hire a coach should ask a coach. Like, I believe in, if you're looking to invest in a coach, ask them, who's coaching you? Like, because that's a powerful question. If you're going to sell me on how valuable coaching is, like, you wouldn't go to a doctor who's smoking for health advice. Like, there are plenty of oncologists that smoke. Like, I've had some of them as clients, but like you wouldn't go to a doctor who's smoking for health. Like, you wouldn't take them seriously, just like you wouldn't go to an overweight personal trainer to get like the results. Because if they're preaching the results, you want to see the results for themselves and that they're in congruence and in alignment with what they're selling you. So that's one of the questions that I say, anybody who's looking to hire a coach, first of all, ask, who's coaching you? Like, you preach, you want to sell me this coaching as to why it's valuable. So who's coaching you and why is it valuable? And then ask, have you invested that amount of money in yourself? Like, you're asking to invest $5,000, $10,000. Like, have you done the same? And I encourage every coach to listen to that podcast episode on the Princess and the Bee.
Yeah, totally. Like, drop it, girl, drop it.
But I totally, like, to circle back to your question about, have there ever been times where I felt like out of alignment with the investment that I made? So the first investment that I made in my first coach, like, that was a $5,000 investment. I didn't have the money at the time. I was $40,000 in debt. Like, I just found out I was pregnant. Like, and honestly, I attribute this to my son as to the reason why I made that investment, because I knew, like, prior to, I was like, I don't know, I was on the fence, and then I found out I was pregnant. I was like, I can't not make this investment to shift this stuff that's going on in my head as to why I'm suddenly doubting myself all the time and not taking action in my business and not really moving forward. It took a few months for that investment, though, to pay off. Like, it took a couple months of me putting the work into practice, into like sudden, like, you don't drop money always. Like, sometimes it can happen, but you don't automatically have it necessarily come back like that. Sometimes it can. It's not to say that it can't, but it's more often than not, it's like, are you putting in the action, the aligned action steps that you're saying that you're going to do, and then moving forward in that energy and in that faith, versus focusing on fear and not doing it and kind of backtracking and backpedaling. I feel like when you make an investment of that level, more often than not, at least with me, like, when I make an investment like that, I'm like leaning in, and I'm like, I'm doing more acts of courage, more things that scare me, which eventually produce greater return.
I love that.
It's like, for me, it took a few months, but I still didn't lose the faith, because I knew how valuable the work that I had done was.
There's so much to be taken from that, because, it's not uncommon when I'm talking to coaches on the phone that they'll share with me stories about, oh, I paid to invest in this program or that program. I worked with this person, it didn't work out. And, this person helped me to, this one kind of gets me a lot, is so-and-so helped me to accomplish something to get me started, but I'm still not started. And I'm so stuck and I have nothing left to give to this.
Oh my gosh,
So
I had a
what would you say
conversation.
to that coach that just feels like they've overextended themselves, that they feel like they were kind of sold a bill of goods by everybody, and I'm kind of teeing it up a little bit, but the truth is I hear this a lot from different people in our industry that are really capable, that overall their heart's in the right place of where they want to go, but they seem kind of lost in not having enough to be able to move forward. So how do you fill the tank? I guess this is my question. How do you fill the tank when you feel like you've overextended yourself and there's nothing left to give?
There are multiple layers to this question to unpack.
You know what I mean, though? Like,
there's I totally get, because I've had clients come to me after they've worked with someone else who they didn't work out. So first of all, eliminate the blame. Like, if there's blame that, oh, I hired this consultant or I hired this coach and I didn't see results from that experience. If you're blaming that other coach or you're blaming yourself, blame is blame is blame is blame. And it taints your progress and it taints your energy. So eliminate the blame. Look at the benefits of what that provided. Like, maybe that coach was exactly what you needed for that time and it gave you some shifts in perspective. Like, I've invested in programs that didn't really do radical amounts for me, but they had certain little tiny tweaks that I made that changed the game for how I communicate or how I do things with relationships or how I show up personally. Like, it's those little tiny tweaks rather than focusing on like, oh, that was just $20,000 down the drain. No, like, if you think of it that way, then it's also look at the law of karma. Like, do you really want people thinking of that way about you in any way?
Ooh, that's a biggie, right? Because if you're carrying around that baggage and that perspective, and then you're applying, how could you expect others not to apply the similar perspective if that's what you keep projecting?
Yep.
I love that.
If you're putting that out into the world. So just be aware of like what you're putting out there. So that's why like I'm very keen whenever I hear my clients like pop up with a little bit of blame, because blame is insidious. It is an insidious disease that affects every area of your life. It is painful to watch someone self-sabotage more often than not because they're blaming either themselves, my high achievers who are very skilled at that, or they're blaming other people, like, or they're trying like blaming the world, whatever it is. But blame is insidious. So watch for blame anywhere. If you're feeling overstretched as well, like if you've invested in other programs, if you've put in the work, sometimes they're like, I was literally just having a conversation with one of the women in my community, and I was saying, like, she invested thousands of dollars in building her list and summits and things like that, but she hasn't had one paying client yet. And I was like, girl, I was like,
summits and everything. Dang.
I said, we are good. I said, your job is to collect no's. Like, let's make it fun. Let's see who can say no to you today. Like, let's make it fun. Collect the no's for 1 week. And if you collect 50, I guarantee like one of them will be a maybe, or they'll have someone who might know someone who might need what you're offering. But collect no's and make it fun. Because if you're focused, like, so often what I see, and I struggled with this too when I first started my business, focusing on the wrong things, focusing on like list building. Like, I had my first $10,000 month with a list of 350 people. It's not about the size of the list, and it's not about the size of your following. It's not about that. It's about having the right messaging. It's about having a process that you put people through, and you backing it solidly with belief that you know that you can cultivate transformation in other people's lives.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's definitely talk about
yes.
that. One of the biggest things that gets in the way, I think, for many coaches is the fear that they are not perfect themselves, and therefore they cannot affect change through a process in another person. And I'd love for you, if you don't mind, Kim, because I know you know so much just about like presence and poise and like all of that.
Oh, I'm not very poised, but
well, you know about it though, right? And you talk about like exuding that and projecting, you know, and crowning yourself and really carrying yourself as the queen that you are. And so talk to us a little bit about your own self-belief in helping to facilitate transformation for others. And I'd love for you to touch on, if you don't mind, the subject of specifically body image, because I know this is a big thing for both of our communities, for all of the communities. If you don't look like a supermodel, can you still present like a queen? Or can?
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's multiple pieces of this. So the first thing you touched on is the perfectionism of like, they're not perfect enough. They don't have the perfect results yet in every area of their life. And so they don't feel like they can enact transformation. So with that perfection thing, I always use the Anne Hathaway, Jennifer Lawrence paradox. So there was a few years ago, I think Anne Hathaway and Jennifer Lawrence were going for the same, they were going up for the Academy Award, and people were like really hating on Anne Hathaway and people were loving Jennifer Lawrence, and Jennifer Lawrence showed up like flaws and all. She was like, this is me. Here I am. I'm just saying shit out of my mouth. Like she just was very open about like who she was. And Anne Hathaway, she came off as very collected, very trained and rehearsed. And that actually is a psychological paradox that it builds distrust. So actually the more imperfect you show yourself to be, the more vulnerable you are, the more perfect people perceive you to be. Like I did an interview where I shared about like how I ate poop one time on accident, like not intentionally, but it was like, I thought my son had fig butter on his hands. It was not fig butter. That was painful. But like, I'm very open about being poised, about also showing the fact that I make mistakes, I mess up. I was very vulnerable with my membership community when I said, hey, the last launch bombed. Like, okay, cool. Let's shift. We're pivoting. My clients actually loved it. They're like, oh my gosh, you're human. You have failures. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Because I don't perceive myself to be a failure. I perceive myself to have a really powerful learning lesson as to some things to not do. And like, let's shift. But I know that it doesn't mean ruin for me. So that's one thing on the perfectionist paradox. The second thing that you talked about was body image. And this was a big one for me. 10 years of bulimia, of having people perceive you as one way. And the thing that I found, because I first started out doing body image and wellness coaching, the thing that I found is that having worked with literally hundreds of people's bodies of all different shapes and sizes, of all different ethnicities, all different genders, all different everything. It does not matter what you put inside your body, what you eat, or what you, whether it's healthy or not. It does not matter whether you are technically fat or technically thin, like by scientific standards. It does not matter if you are exercising every day or exercising 3 times a day or exercising once a week. It's all up here in how you perceive your body. It is entirely 100% in your mind. And it is, how do you train your brain on those days that you don't feel like enough? How often are you listening to your body when she's saying, I'm tired, like, please don't punish me with another gym session. I really need rest. How often are you really recognizing yourself when you walk past a mirror naked and you're like, ooh, that was a nasty comment. Let's reframe that. Like, let's just notice, okay, wow, I'm really grateful. Like this spot, like I am very open about the fact that I realize why my book, Mindful Meals, has taken years to get out into the world. And it's because this past year I was very dedicated on finishing it, but then I gained 10 pounds and I got totally subconscious, but I got very insecure about like, oh my gosh, the methods that I use to like transform my body and how I perceive it, like, do they still work? And I'm like, of course they work. Like, what a better testament to my book of showing the fact that yes, you can, when you shift the thinking about your body, you can actually shift your results in how you perceive food. And like, stress is a big one. Like looking at what are the emotions that you're putting into what you're consuming. What are the emotions that you're putting, what are the labels that you are attaching to the foods that you're eating. Now, I'm not saying that they're like not nutritious or not, but like if you're saying something's good or bad, that's a label of morality. And it's very similar to how people perceive money as well. Is it good or is it bad? And when you look at those labels of what you're attaching it to, you can start to see where the fears are. You can start to see where the programming is. And once you have the awareness, then you can move into acceptance. Like I had it was about 2 years where I had to really be just practicing that awareness of saying, okay, cool. I'm not perfect right now as I am. I am perfect and I'm still growing. Like I am not perfect with my eating. I still would be throwing up on occasion, but I would own it. I would own the fact that I messed up. I would own the fact that I made a mistake, and I would learn from it instead of perceiving it as like a giant, massive failure. To circle back like way to the beginning of our conversation, to look at it of like, okay, what can I learn from this? Maybe what was I feeling at the time that I decided to put like an entire tiramisu and a pizza in my mouth? Like what was I feeling? What were the thoughts that were going through my head that were triggering me? Because I don't believe you have to be perfect. I believe that perfection is a paradox. You are perfect as you are right now. And you can keep growing and you can keep better. And if you are on that path of perfecting, then the beauty of that is that you're going to meet people that aren't exactly where you like, that are like 6 months psychologically where you are. And those people are going to be needing the tools, the tips, the tricks, the mindset shifts, the reframes that you have already gotten, received now so that you can move forward. So that's so good. That's so good. Did I answer your question? I sometimes go off on rants.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Because in my own journey, I think I've fantasized about the idea of becoming a coach for probably 5 years before I really pulled the trigger. And one of the big recurring thoughts that stopped me from becoming a coach was, you're heavy, Amanda, right? And like, that makes no sense. That like, why would somebody want to listen to you about productivity advice? Why would somebody want to listen to you about how you could, have 35-hour work weeks, because you're heavy. And I had all this stuff like really wrapped up in my head because, I agree with you that there's certainly a congruence, right? I'm not comfortable coaching people on, how to, on fitness and on health necessarily, but I can totally tell you how to tap into next levels of energy because I have abundant energy.
And being productive like a mofo.
Crazy productive.
Productivity and physical appearance are not correlated.
Not totally correlated. And I think the big thing that freed me was when I realized that people value the fact that you yourself are on a journey and that you will not have judgment for their lack of perfection because you honor their journey too. And that's really what coaching is all about. It's all about helping each other climb on this journey of life towards something that is better, something that is more impactful, something that has a lot to it. Now, Desiree, loyal fan and follower.
Desiree.
Yeah, she is a badass, by the way. She's been following the Crush method and getting her clients, and she's been going on social media. She's been doing great.
Congratulations, Desiree.
Yes, she's so good. And so her question to you, Kim, is how do you market outside of social media?
Ooh, this sounds fun. I'm a member of one of my favorite networking groups is Elevate. Fantastic, really badass networking group. Where I only recently found them. It was actually because of them that I was featured in Forbes, that I became a Forbes contributor. So that networking group was so cool because you go there and it's just women doing business. And if you could help someone, it's like, cool. If you can't, then it's like, it's not this pushy business card, let's get drunk sort of thing. So networking events are a big one. But also just like showing up, like it is in your presence. When you embody yourself and you show up as a coach and like people know that that's what you are because you just embody that, then I've gotten clients from just walking into a coffee shop. I've gotten clients from being on podcasts, on other people's podcasts, and they're like, I think you would actually I'd like you to coach me. So like you can get clients from anywhere that are not just on social media. Networking is a big one, and it does come into the presence that you show up in and you own the fact that you're a badass coach, you do your job damn good, and you own that.
Yeah. Own it. And, I think, oftentimes when people ask that question, how do you market outside of social media? I'm not saying this is you, Desiree. I'm just saying in general, when people ask that question, often there's a hesitancy about using social media.
Yes.
So I'd love like a quick little follow on. What's your perspective on how a coach can use social media really, really effectively? And what are some of the traps, I guess, or like the pitfalls where people get super stuck in social?
So a couple things with that. One of the pitfalls, one of the things that I see is because I've seen the fear of showing up and do I have to be on social media? Not necessarily, but like what is your mission? Like it goes back to the mission of what really are you doing this for? Are you doing this for like the money of what you think coaching will bring you? Because if you approach people with that perspective of like, I need to sell you, or like, I need to fix you, then it's comes off as salesy, and B, it comes off as judgmental. So if you see like people on social media and you're like, oh, that person obviously has a relationship problem. And I say this because I did this when I first started coaching. Like I do not teach anything that I haven't already learned for myself. And like that was one that I saw, like somebody would post this like tirade about this awful date that they were on. I was like, oh, I can help you. Like, let's reframe. And they didn't want the help. And that's okay. Like, that's totally okay.
You have to tackle problems that people want to part with.
Exactly. So for me, it comes down to service, and like, it comes down to showing up with compassion. It comes down to showing up and celebrating my awesome clients and what they are achieving. And then from there, I get calls from people that I taught Pilates to like 10 years ago. Who are like, I think I need some coaching. I'm like, cool. Let's go to it. But it comes down to the presence of how you show up. And when you show up and you say, yeah, I'm a coach and I'm awesome at what I do, and I also have a life, and I'm also a badass person. If you want to be friends, cool. If you want to have if it sounds like what you want is a little bit of coaching conversation, I do get paid for that. So that is my job. So there is that delineation to make as well. In deciding what is going to be a coaching conversation and what is going to be a conversation that is like with a friend. Like, because if it's a close friend of mine, I won't coach them. But if it's somebody that I know from like a past business, or who was a client in the past, or if it's somebody that I'm not super close with, then I will definitely if they come to me with a problem that seems like they need some coaching and some perspective shifts, I let them know that that's something that I get paid to do. And I am more than happy to serve them in all the gloriousness that is them.
That is awesome. You know what I love about that response too is it's a really good reminder that social media is just an extension of conversations that you're having with networks and people anyway. Like I think we build it up in our head as it's very scary and it's very foreign because it is a relatively new way of communicating with people. But at the end of the day, it's just part of communicating. So Kim, we're coming to the end, and you had a very special gift that you were generously going to share with folks if they are so inclined. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is?
So I've got this really awesome, because I am not just a certified high performance coach. I'm also certified in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. I have a really kick-ass procrastination elimination hypnosis that you can get when you just click the link below. If you have been a procrastinator on maybe getting some clients or on taking those action steps that you know that you need to do, like when you put your head on your pillow and you're like, oh, I really should have done that thing that I didn't do that I know I needed to do a month ago and I still haven't done it, then listen to this hypnosis. Let your subconscious mind be reprogrammed. Do not listen to this while you're driving or operating heavy machinery. But it is a very powerful hypnosis. I always recommend to my clients to listen to it 5 minutes before you go to sleep, either right before and then like in the first 5 minutes that you wake up, because that is the prime time for your subconscious to be suggestible.
So it's a downloadable audio file, huh?
Downloadable audio file, just like, a Lady Gaga soundtrack.
Lady God, just like that.
Just like it.
So good. So good. Well, Kim, I just so have enjoyed our time together today. And the way I end every single session, I'm going to end it the same way as you. What have you just absolutely loved about your interview here today?
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a question I ask. I love just your presence, your energy, your joy. I love the fact that you let me rant for a hot second.
Real gold in there. Like, I'm so glad so many people were able to join us today, because you've really done the doing, and that's a big part of why I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to do this today. So thank you for your energy, and thank you for the rants, because they were awesome. And if you want to follow Kim, you can go to crownyourself.com. She is on all the things. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Definitely follow her. Check out her social media game, y'all. It's pretty good.
The Instagrams. Got my gram game going on.
I'm Facebook queen, and I feel like you're the Instagram queen. It's so good.
It's getting up there. I'm very, very happy that we've upped our gram game, because I'm very visual with the imagery. And so, yeah.
Selling sparkle water. It's no wonder at all.
It's sparkle with a hint of like challenge. So like, and like challenging is my jam. So thank you so much for having me on, Amanda. I have so appreciated this time and spending this time with you.
Oh, my pleasure. And for those that are joining us live, thank you so much for doing that. If you've watched the replay, be sure to drop replay so we can give you a shout out. If you're watching and you have a question, just drop it in the comments, and we do check those. We do respond to those. Desiree's all over your procrastination queen download. The comments are in the notes, and I am going to be putting this interview onto our podcast. I'll make sure that is in the show notes as well. So you can join us every Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Central for the Crush Method Daily Show. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you really enjoyed this episode and that it gave you some very useful nuggets. Do us a favor and go ahead and share this with anyone that you know that's building a business or maybe thinking about it, that you think might really benefit from this content. We just love helping coaches and experts build their expert empires and doing it in a way that gives a really strong foundation. And I hope you found this episode to really contribute meaningfully to that mission. We'll see you again real soon.